Alright, welcome back. Today I'm at Faskally Forest in Perthshire, near to Pitlochry. Some of you might know it as the Enchanted Forest, which is a big light show that takes place here in October. Really worthwhile coming if you ever get the chance. But I've come here today because it's a good example of a continuous cover forest. So this is the type of forest that we're trying to create, and yeah, it's good to see what it looks like in real life, especially one that's been managed this way for probably a couple of 100 years. And so the main difference, or the main thing about continuous cover is it's a forest full of mixed age trees, which means it's always creating a forest-like feeling. It's always got a canopy, so it's this continuous cover, it's continually a forest, rather than the clear fell method, which is where you plant all the trees at one point, cut them all down at the same time, and you end up going between these completely mature forests to a barren landscape. I mean, more like what some people describe as an industrial tree farm to some degrees. And part of the reason that we want to do this continuous cover is because we think it's better for biodiversity, better for people as well. You get this a lot more mixed environment, as you can see. I think it's a lot more attractive, and we believe better for biodiversity, better for wildlife. So yeah, as you can see here, we've got a mixture of like small trees, some really big trees, and medium-sized trees. So it's like this different layers to the forest. And here we've got I was going to say a little bit more about the background to Faskally. So it was private woodland until the 1950s, when it was purchased by the Forestry Commission, and it was used to teach foresters, train new foresters in the principles of forestry, in continuous cover forestry. That the school that was here is no longer here, but it's still managed in a continuous cover method, and now it's Forestry Land Scotland. So that's the organisation in Scotland that looks after the national forests. And so I forgot today, maybe I can stitch it in, a forest plan of what's currently here and how they're going to manage the forest into the future. So in this area we've got we've actually got Douglas fir here, so this kind of, see the texture of the bark here, kind of gives that away. And then we've got some beech over here, and actually got some larch here as well in the background. So continuous cover doesn't necessarily mean trees of different species, but why not? You can do continuous cover with just one species, but with that you're kind of a bit more limited potentially on the species that you can use, because you really need these trees that are growing on the forest floor. They need to be able to tolerate some shade, because obviously you've got big trees. So trees that really need to be in light spaces, like for example Scots pine, would struggle probably to grow on the forest floor unless you create larger clearings. So we've got a bit of a clearing here, you can see. Don't know, that's probably still not large enough for Scots pine, but you can imagine maybe slightly bigger clearings that you can make in the forest. Can't be too big, otherwise you're getting away from the continuous cover approach. But it's a balance in a way between that. Depends what types of trees you want to grow as well. So yeah, and over here we've got quite a bit of beech in here. Let's see some more over here, and some holly down there, some sycamore down there as well. So the mature trees around here are generally conifers, and but it looks like now they're trying to get different other types of trees in here as well. Right, so I'm gonna wander through the forest, and we can stop every so often and talk about what we can see. Okay, so I'm just 50 meters down the track, stopped already. We've got some oak here in a slight clearing in the conifers, as you can see above. Potentially done on purpose, potentially because of the path. potentially because of wind damage. So that's that creates clearings. So all sorts of reasons why. I would say, yeah, these trees are not particularly, as you can see, they're not particularly straight. So it's like, I don't know whether, and they haven't been pruned, so I'm not sure whether these are really being managed for timber purposes. I expect in this area, nearer to the car park, and also what the forest plan said from on the Forestry and Land website, that this area is part of this area is for recreational purposes more. So maybe they just try to get a bit more species diversity in here. And yeah, broadleafs do need more looking after, maintenance, to produce good quality timber trees, which potentially they don't want to spend the time doing. So, but it's good to see that variety anyway. And again, looks like we've got some more Douglas fir back there. We've got I won't go over too much conifer identification because I am by no means a expert at conifer identification, but this is a young Douglas fir. The main reason I'm probably knowing in this case, see these kind of dimples on the trunk. They're basically sap filled, and if you can like pop one of them, it splits and you get some sap coming out. Probably can't see that, but it's got a strong like conifer, pine, conifer, shouldn't say pine, it's a strong conifer smell to it. So that's a good way of knowing that's a young Douglas fir. Whereas a spruce you wouldn't get that with a spruce tree. I'm not sure that if it always happens with a Douglas fir. I've seen some other Douglas fir a bit further back, and it had the same sort of needle pattern. It had a quite smooth trunk still, and it's only generally on the young Douglas fir. So like we were saying before, like the old Douglas fir, let's see if we can see any here. Yeah, I think this is it here. So actually here it's interesting, so further up you can see the dimples still as it goes up, but further down it's getting this kind of more gnarly kind of texture. And then as we saw even further down, which this is going to slightly more, so you can see it's more quite different. It's kind of the bark's breaking up longitudinally up and down the trunk. So, and then it gets like, it's even more, and the older it gets, the more strongly it gets. And also you can see that the trunk here is quite uniform as it goes up. It's like kind of remarkable how it doesn't really seem to change, which makes it really good for a timber tree. You get a lot of high quality timber out of that, and it's seen as like a high quality conifer tree because it grows faster than like a broadleaf generally, but not as quickly as, for example, a Sitka spruce. So and higher quality timber, and yeah, you can get a much longer span of a quite wide, if that makes sense. So because the trunk's wide, you can, for example, they use them in sailing ship masts. So quite old school, but even today, or in like constructing a building, you could use those. And then as we're coming here, we're changing again, so we're going into got some larch on the right hand side, or middle of the right hand side of the middle, and then we've got some Scots pine here as well. And not sure what this next one is. Potentially Douglas fir still, I think. No two trees ever look identical, so and they all kind of display slightly differently. What else we got? Oh, we've still got some Scots pine here. Oh, can you see it? Right, Right, let's carry on. Right, I've come across a couple of cedar trees here. I think potentially western red cedar, but that's maybe because that's the only cedar I really know about. And I know it does grow, people do grow it here in Scotland for timber purposes. And we know it's a cedar because it's this foliage is, it's quite flat. It's looks quite different to other types of conifer trees. Western red cedar, I believe if you like crush the foliage and smell it, yeah, it does have a slight kind of pineapple smell to it. It's western red cedar, and I would imagine other types of cedars are quite shade tolerant because of this flat foliage with a high surface area. It means it can grow underneath other trees, so it works well in a continuous cover forest, because as you can see here, we've got other larger Scots pine trees around here, and these cedars are smaller, so I would imagine they're younger. Western red cedar, I think it grows, I would imagine it grows a little bit quicker than Scots pine, but I'm not 100% sure. Scots pine is quite slow growing. But even if it's not, then yeah, it's definitely smaller than these trees around. That is not on this tree. Western red cedar, the timber from western red cedar is used in construction. It's got, as maybe you can imagine, western red. It's kind of got a reddish colour to it. It's used in, for example, cladding. So in Britain it might be becoming more popular potentially, because at the moment we use larch cladding quite a lot in construction. But as larch has this disease at the moment, not so much is now being planted. You know, in come 50 years time, there's not going to be much larch around. Maybe we're going to have more western red cedar, but we'll see what happens there. Right, let's carry on. Right, so I just stopped by this beach. We have already seen some beach, but I just thought I'd give a quick mention to it. So it does grow in a continuous cover environment. It's kind of partly shade tolerant. It doesn't always grow potentially under itself so well, because a large beech tree does really block a lot of the light. But here in this environment where it is you know, still quite a bit, it still doesn't feel that dark in here. And in this spot we've actually got a few clearings as well. But even in some of the darker areas, we're still seeing some beech coming through. So it's and because of the shade tolerance, means it's a good tree for continuous cover forests. So we've got to think about this continuous cover. It's going to be darker in the forest, a little bit darker than it would be, well, definitely darker than it would be in an open field. So what kind of trees would grow well in that environment? The other thing to say about continuous cover, of course, is in an open field it can be quite exposed. So some trees just don't like growing in an open field. So, you know, with wind and well, yeah, particularly the wind, it can make it's quite a different environment to a forest. So potentially in our forest that we're planning, the trees that will be planted initially are there to like get established, because getting a tree established is pretty hard. But later on, when potentially 20-30 years, maybe longer down the line, when that forest environment is established, we can introduce other types of tree which wouldn't grow there at the moment in an open field. So particularly in our conifer areas, we're going to be planting quite a lot of maybe what we would call maybe boring conifers, ones that are maybe not so interesting, because it's trying to get it established there, and then hopefully later on we can come in and plant other trees, other types of conifers, which like Douglas fir, which might work well in the site when there's other trees there to help block some of that exposure. But at the moment they're just not going to work especially on the top in the large area of conifers that we're planning. So it's that, how's the forest going to look like in 5 years time, 10 years time, but also what's it going to feel like in 50 or 100 potentially. I mean, these are just plans and things will always change over that time anyway, but I think it's good that we have like that's the current plan. We have a long-term plan. It doesn't mean we won't change the long-term plan, but we're taking into account all of those considerations, and hopefully we can make something kind of attractive like it is in here at the moment. Right, we've got some holly here. I'm sure most people know what holly is. This spiky leaf, evergreen. The grows pretty slowly, but it's shade tolerant. Grows in the forest itself. Not a tree you would generally associate with producing timber. I mean, people do make things out of it, but it's a good thing for biodiversity. Has berries on. You know, here we've got some ones forming here. Obviously red, come later in the year. And yeah, the leaves here they help to suck up all the light that gets down to the forest floor, and it's the sub canopy where the oaks grow. One that we should be planting hopefully a fair bit in our forest. And we've also got quite a bit of holly already surrounding the current woodland on our land, so we're hoping that's going to regenerate naturally as well in the coming years. It's probably more so, I would guess, in 10 plus years, once the forest canopy and the forest floor becomes a bit more suitable for it, shall we say. Right, I've just stopped here with this beech. This is probably the largest beech tree I've seen in the forest today, and look how you can see how straight it is, which obviously makes it a good timber tree. Growing between, I think, yeah, these are generally Douglas fir around here. The thing about beech though, when it comes to timber, it's not very valuable timber, and that's partly because it's not that desirable, especially in the UK. I think, as people seem to suggest, is that it's possibly seen as a IKEA wood furniture. So the pattern that it has is quite similar to IKEA furniture, which obviously isn't seen as a valuable type of furniture wood. So it's unfortunate. I mean, a beech tree like this, you know, it's a beautiful tree, and but the value just isn't there, which is part of the reason that we're not planting beech, because we're trying to plant, it's obviously, it takes as much work to look after as an oak, and yeah, it comes to it at the end of the day, if it's just not as valuable. The value can, I think oak is, now maybe I'm going to guess off the top of my head, maybe 10 times more valuable potentially. I'm trying to think the last stats I saw on it, but that's the sort of order of magnitude we're talking about, considerably more. And also the beech that we have in our current woodland, the stuff that's been regenerating naturally, is being attacked by squirrels. So, you know, there's a lot of like 20-year-old beech in the current wood that are dying because of the squirrel attacks. And although we're trying to control the squirrels, you know, make sure they don't cause the problems, who knows, you know, who knows what the problem might be in 20 years time, when the trees we're planting now are gonna be that age that they could be attacked and killed. So there's a few reasons, I guess, we're not planting beech, but I'm sure some will naturally generate, because we do have some big beech trees on the land at the moment, including in the field, which we're going to be planting new trees in. So who knows, we should still have some, but more for that kind of variety, biodiversity point, rather than the timber specifically. Right, so we've got coming into a bit of a different section here. We've got a lot more birch here, which is providing a lot more light under the canopy compared to where you have more spruce. So we've got some beech growing here, and more beech over here. Maybe it's not so much growing here. Like normally you'd expect more down here. So I wondered if there's it looks like you've got some deer in here. This is an oak, and it's been nibbled a lot, and then it's resprouted, hence this kind of bushier kind of nature. And then down here, where we're going back into, you've got some Scots pine down here. You're getting a lot more growing on the floor actually down here. Yeah, a lot of spruce and beech again. We've got some young larch in there. And again, look, this is a lot thicker. So here we got actually not many large trees here, and then we're getting a lot more mid-age mid-age to younger trees growing up. So that's the other thing about continuous cover. It might not be, you might not always have a solid canopy up, like higher up. You can still have like smaller clearings within the structure, because like I said before, not all trees will grow are shade tolerant, so they won't grow where it's dark. So if you only ever have this larger canopy with a lot of smaller trees underneath, that you'll kind of limit what you can grow. Whereas if you have these smaller clearings, maybe, I don't know, kind of varies, maybe 20-30 meters in size, maybe 20-50 meters, 50 maybe is the most, you'd get a lot more variety you can have. Here we've got more, these kind of more oak in here again. It's like a pure oak stand in here. And over here we're getting the main canopy up above is larch, and then underneath we've got a mixture of spruce, larch and beech. Got a rowan here. See the river down below us? Ah, haven't seen one of these yet. Maybe you can recognize it, I don't know. It's got a cherry here. I wonder where that's come from. I haven't seen any mature cherry. And it doesn't look, I wouldn't have thought that was been planted, just one by itself by the side of the path. Probably maybe a cherry seed stone has been dropped by a bird there. And still got oak on this side. Oh, here we are, we've got an older cherry here. So maybe, yeah, we've got this is a mix, like maybe potentially mostly oak, but this one cherry. Let's go in a little bit and have a look. So this is some potentially what we're going to have in the forest that we're planning on the land. We're having a mixture of oak, birch, and then the cherry behind us. So that's one of our mixes that we're planting, mainly in an intimate mix, and potentially in small groups as well. So that's where you get maybe, I don't know, maybe up to 25 like oak trees together, and then 25 cherry trees together, and mix it like that. So, and the way you do it, why we're doing this is, as you can see here, it means the trees are growing straighter and with less side branches on, or at least less large side branches on. So you're getting these oak quite a lot straighter than the ones we saw before growing in the clearing, where there was only like 3 of them. So you're getting this one's pretty straight, which is what you're trying to do when you're growing for timber. Now this one really hasn't got many branches at all until about 3 meters, whereas this one over here's got a few more. So if we were managing this wood, you'd come in and cut all these side branches off, probably a bit earlier than now. But as most of these side branches are dying, then it's probably not too much of an issue. I wonder, not an expert on this yet, but whether now would be a good time to thin these oaks. You're starting to maybe compete a bit too much with each other, and like I said, the point of planting them so close together, or letting them regenerate so close together, is as they get older, also the reason you do it is that so they grow straighter. But once they get to a certain height, it's not so important that, and you really want them to put on more girth. So you need them to develop more branches higher up and more leaves, so they grow, so the girth gets bigger sooner. And we actually got some, same before, we got some natural regeneration here. So this is potentially, and here these are oak, and you've got a beech over there, and some spruce as well. So maybe we'll come back in 10 years time and see whether there's an understory of oak, or what exactly has been happening in here. So I can, if I can remember where I was when I filmed this, there's a path junction just down here. We're just what are we? See the river over there, and maybe we're 200 meters south of the lock by the car park. Right, I'm just in the car park here, and it's actually it's quite interesting even here. I mean, you've got these absolutely huge spruce trees around here, which are pretty old and pretty big. And yeah, it's unusual to see them this old because normally they get cut down at like age 40. But we've also in here, again, you've got continuous cover in here. We've got lots of smaller trees growing up here. We've got some spruce and we've got some beech and some sycamore. Yeah, big group of sycamore further back. But here it's interesting, we've got some really tall birch here, some silver birch, and pretty straight, which is quite unusual to see in Scotland. Which is, you know, a birch native tree, not really used much in kind of construction, but when you can grow it really straight like that, then that provides a great opportunity for productive timber. So yeah, that's kind of, it's interesting to see. Got quite a mixture of different other trees down here. Yeah, so yeah, even if you can only, actually it's a good stopping place, this picnic area actually, that people use between central Scotland and the north of Scotland. So if you're ever in the area, recommend coming in and stopping here and having a look around. It's a walk around the lock, which is like a mile or so. You can actually look at the map just here. So yeah, we're at the car park here, and it just, you walk around the lock, and this is like the main road right here, the A9. Okay, so that concludes the tour of Faskally Forest. Quite a brief tour, and I'm sure I'll come back again in the future and do some more videos here because there's so much to see and so much to talk about. But hopefully you got a bit of a better understanding of what a continuous cover forest is and what it looks like and what happens in it and how it grows and how it works together. If you're enjoying the videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next video.